demanding that their voices be heard.
Chicago's Progressive Talk is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Out Chicago.
What I hate is bringing up trans issues with somebody that doesn't want to discuss politics, because trans issues, it's rights. It's not just politics.
Yeah.
And I've been in situations where I was bringing up somebody that was trans, and a person happened to be a person that never wants to talk about politics. You know, can you guess probably where they lean? But how dare you, with me bringing up something about a trans issue, say I don't want to go there. That's political.
Catch Out Chicago every Sunday, 11 to 1 on WCPT 820.
The price of meat has been skyrocketing at the supermarket. So what will you do for your barbecue? 20 ribeyes, $39.99. Today is the last day of the Prime House Direct gigantic prime steak, chicken, seafood truckload sale. 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. Rain or shine. At Menards, 2700 Lake Cook Road, Long Grove.
Look for the big truck.
And the big tent. 20 ribeyes, just $39.99. Cases of fillets, New York strips, Delmonico's, boneless chicken breast,
And even large shrimp.
with wholesale boxes of individual prime portions, vacuum sealed for long freezer life, accepting cash, credit, debit card, and EBT. Check out Prime House Direct on Facebook. Stop by and register to win our $1,000 prime steak, chicken, pork, and seafood package, along with a free freezer. No purchase necessary. 20 ribeyes, $39.99. At Menards, 2700 Lake Cook Road, Long Grove.
Today is the last day.
8 a.m. till 7 p.m. Rain or shine. Online at theprimehousedirect.com.
The following program, Real Estate Radio, is sponsored by Trusted Agent USA, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of NewsWeb Radio Company or its management.
Welcome to Real Estate Radio, hosted by the real estate therapist Larry Shakman, a top producing real estate broker, author, CEO, and founder of TrustedAgentUSA.com, the ultimate real estate matchmaker, connecting you with top performing agents for 2% commission. Each week, we bring you exclusive interviews with industry experts, covering everything from staging to negotiation strategies to home inspection issues and everything in between. Whether you're selling your home, a first-time home buyer, or a seasoned investor, we've got you covered. Let's make your real estate dreams a reality in this fast-moving and ever-changing real estate market. This program is funded in whole or in part by Trusted Agent USA, Illinois license number 475-145-795. Now, here's Larry.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Saturday morning Real Estate Radio with Larry Shakman, the real estate therapist. That's, of course, me. And Dylan Kramer.
I don't know what you're in slow mode today this morning, Larry, but I'm glad to be back on the therapist couch on a cold and rainy Saturday morning.
It's not that cold.
It's colder than it was a week ago.
That's not going to play well
about
on 2 months from now.
Man, you're not kidding. It's coming. It's coming. Well, actually, it's probably only 3 weeks, but we're not here to talk about the weather.
Yeah, no, we're not. We know what the weather is. We can look out the window. So we have a lot to talk about today. Again, my name's Larry Shakman. I'm the real estate therapist. I'm a real estate broker. I've been a broker for about 23 years. And we're here to answer your questions. You can give us a call directly at 773-763-9278. You can also text us at that number. And we are here to put you in that state of real estate zen. That's what we do here.
That's what we do here on the Real Estate Therapist Couch. We get everybody kind of over their real estate neuroses, right? We get people kind of back on track, especially Except us. That certainly causes us a bunch of problems and chaos, but it's cool.
Yeah. So, like I said, we have a lot of good things to talk about today. Again, you can reach us at 773-763-9278. We're live on Facebook at WCPT 820. We're also live on TikTok and on YouTube at Larry Shakman, at LarryShakman on YouTube. So, Dylan, like I said, we got a lot to talk about. Before we get into it, I just want to thank our sponsors, as always, At Home Title Services, coming up the 18th this week. They have a virtual event. If you are a real estate agent and, again, you want to add another menu item to the list of services that you offer your sellers, become a registered title agent. Hop on their virtual event the 18th of this week. I have no idea what day that is. Do you
Larry,
know
is there No, I don't.
What?
But
Okay.
I'm going to look. Hold on, I'm going to look it up on the calendar.
All right.
Is there a link or a web page that they can go to register for that Wednesday, the 18th?
Yes. Okay, good. Thank you. It is Wednesday the 18th. You could hop on athometitleservices.com and sign up for it, or you can go right to trustedagentUSA.com, click on Our Partners, and then click on the At Home Title Services banner and sign up for the virtual event. Become a registered title agent. Again, it's a great service to offer your sellers, so thank you to them. Thank you to TrustedAgentUSA.com. If you want to save literally thousands of dollars selling, buying, or investing for that matter, and we've talked a lot about investing these last few weeks.
We have talked a lot about investing, but I think it makes a lot of sense too. I mean, like we've talked about, just to recap for everybody who wasn't necessarily with us, we've talked a little bit about using FHA loans for house hacking and the opportunity to qualify using rents on multi-unit families. And then last week we got a chance to share the discussion about Fannie Mae expanding the guidelines for multi-unit properties down to 5% down, which allows those much higher Fannie Mae loan limits to come into play and allows somebody to buy up to about a $1.4 million 4-unit for as little as 5% down. So there's really going to be, I think, a lot of interest and activity over the course of the next few months in that multi-unit space. I think that if it's the sort of thing that if you haven't been involved in that and you thought you might be interested in it, it's a good thing to take a look at.
Yeah, and those units that are typically in 4 flats or 3 flats that are selling in the vicinity of 1 to 1.5, 1.4, those units rent out for a very good dollar. So
Absolutely. Look, the thing is, it's going to look at these higher, more elevated interest rates we've seen the last couple of years. It's been more and more difficult to make the math work, but expanding these guidelines, I think, is going to help with that. And, we were in a situation a few years ago where you could probably earn some money over and above your mortgage payment on the rents, but now you could still probably, depending if you get the right deal, get those rents to pay your mortgage and live in the 4th unit.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about that a little bit when it comes to just general market data and dynamics and what's going on right now in terms of rents. But, and the other sponsor I want to thank, of course, is Dylan Kramer and Benchmark Mortgage.
Well, near and dear to my heart, Larry, and I always appreciate the mention. But yeah, we're obviously happy to be part of what we're doing here on the couch.
Yeah, and we got some big news coming up as we are going to also be doing a podcast. So stay tuned for more information on that and how you can tune in to the Real Estate Radio podcast.
More to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit about general dynamics of the market. What is going on out there right now? Now, a couple of things before we even get into that.
Sure.
So, geopolitics, we live in a very small world right now. We are all connected to one another. When something happens, tens of thousands or thousands and thousands of miles away, it could very often affect our economy here and in turn affect our real estate market. So, for instance, and all of our thoughts are with everybody in the Mideast right now, with everything going on there, it's not a great situation. It's probably going to get worse before it gets any better. And, we know that if that thing just literally took off and just went in all directions and all kind of fronts were opened up on that situation there, we could see gas prices going up to $8 a gallon. We could see interest rates going up to 14%. You never know.
You never know what the result is. And the thing is that's interesting, Larry, is as the geopolitical situation in the world escalates, and you put it very nicely, all the humanitarian discussion is relevant, but there also are impacts on the financial markets and the financial world. And so, for example, we've been having internal discussions this last week, and we're like, well, there's always a flight to quality, even if America gets involved into the U.S. Treasury bond, and that in times of uncertainty geopolitically, we end up with often a bond rally. But as you said, that may be offset in this situation by a massive increase in gas prices, which is inflationary. And so the answer is...
Which we're not in control of at all.
Right.
It doesn't matter who's president, they are not in control of gas prices.
Well, you're really...
And they never
just
will
going
be.
Over and nudging all the political landmines around here.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
I like it.
It's a fact. People need to wrap themselves around
I think that in much the same way, you're right. In much the same way that I've said many times, including here, that the Fed does not directly control mortgage rates by raising the overnight lending rate. The mortgage rates are an unintended consequence of Fed rate hikes. The administration, no matter what political party they're affiliated with, does not have a lever to directly impact gas prices. So policy decisions can have long-term impacts for sure, but you're right about that. But I think that the most important thing, or maybe not the most important, but maybe the most relevant thing or the most urgent thing that popped up this week is while things are basically still contained in the Middle East to Israel and the Gaza Strip from a geography standpoint, we are in a situation where we've experienced a little bit of a flight to quality, and we had a really nice week on mortgage rates, which probably took rates down maybe a quarter point. So my general advice to folks is, if you're buying, and we had a few people get under contract this week, these rates are better than they were last week. Lock them in, because I don't think we're going to have a dramatic bond rally and dramatically lower rates from here.
Yeah, I think that is a very good point to make, that, there's a lot of things going on. It affects a lot of things in different ways, and our market literally moves in nanoseconds, so it can change quickly and on a dime. So let's take a look at just some general market data here. First, let's take a look. You mentioned rates. They came down a little bit. Where are we at right now?
So rates are generally in the 7 3/4 to 7.5 area, where we were at 7 3/4 up to 8 last week. So solid, nice week.
Okay, so that's not bad. And like we always say, if you are planning on waiting out the market and waiting for rates to come down, or waiting, even worse, for prices to come down, you're probably going to be waiting a little bit.
You're going to be sorely disappointed, as we've talked about, and we talk about every week. And just a reminder as to why. If you're waiting on rates to come down, the thing that's going to happen when, and it's a when, not an if. I just don't know what the date is. Rates will drop. Rates will drop towards 6%. We get towards 6%, and we're going to have an absolute feeding frenzy in the market. People are going to come out of the woodwork. People who have been pre-approved and are just keeping an eye on the market. They're going to turn around and try to buy real estate, and you're going to get in a bidding war with them. And we had a client lose a bidding war. Now, there were only 3 or 4 offers last week. But imagine going back to the world where we had 20 offers on every piece of real estate. We're still going to have this inventory problem, because if rates drop to 6, it will not motivate the people with 4% and lower mortgages on their existing homes to enter the market and sell. So we're still going to have an inventory problem, even if rates drop. If you're waiting for real estate prices to fall, remember we've shared in the last 115 years, we've had 6 years with down prices. 3 of them were in the Great Recession of 2008, and we're not going to see a 30% decrease in prices, because what you need is sales. Yeah. And we don't have enough inventory to have enough sales at lower prices to change the dynamic of the market.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, inventory and supply and demand is everything, and that's where we're at right now. And I don't see it really expanding that much, although new residential listings are at a 9-week high, which is about 18%, and we're at 18% up week over week and about 4% up year over year in terms of new residential real estate listings. And a lot of that has to do with longer market times. So houses are staying on the market a little bit longer. However, I will say, if you are in a sought-after community, in a home that you've staged properly, in a home that you have priced properly, and you have a marketing agent, a real estate agent who is a marketing agent, then you are probably going to get multiple offers on that property. And that
I think that makes a lot of. I think that makes a lot of sense, Larry. The other thing is, look, I think I did some digging on those numbers yesterday when they got released, because the mainstream media, not to be that guy all that much, but if you watch CNBC, you watch CNN, they're like, oh, inventory's spiking and this housing crash is coming. It's not. Inventory's up a little bit because we're in October now. So if you're motivated to sell, you want to get it done before the winter, you get it in now and you get on your way. And all the people who were waiting for the school year to start or were, looking to move, like there's a whole cluster of activity centered around the school year, which was last month. So to have a small bump in inventory, which this is just seasonal.
Yeah. Now, you brought up rents a little bit ago. Regarding someone house hacks a 4-flat, moves into one of the units, only puts 5% down with this new program on a conventional mortgage.
Right.
And they rent out the other 3 units, which very easily, in many cases, could get you living rent-free or close to it if, depending on the property location and the rents you can get in
Absolutely
that area.
Right.
Now, rents have gone up about $150 month over month, and year over year they've gone up $123. So that's another market where inventory. I just rented a property in where was this property? In Lisle.
Yeah, in Lisle. That's the one you talked a little bit to me about. And, if you want to see pictures of a really nice property, it's on your TikTok, right?
Yeah. Go check it out. It's already rented, but that property and the owner of this property did everything right. She fixed that property up. It was beautiful. It was move-in ready. It's in a great location. I got another one actually coming on the market for sale in about a month and a half once we get it all fixed up in Naperville, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. But that's going to be for sale. But in terms of rentals, so this rental property, it is so competitive out there right now for rentals, easily as competitive as it is for to purchase a home. It is just, people are, I had probably 13 showings in 2 days on that property, and it was rented.
It's interesting you say that, Larry.
For 2 years, by the way.
But, there you go.
2-year lease.
That's a big commitment. The interesting thing about rents is, and I know we're segueing a little bit later in the conversation, we're going to talk about real estate horror stories. And, real estate horror stories sometimes are amusing and sometimes they're not all that funny, but it's just stuff that happens to people. So I'm going to jump a little bit, but one of the rent conversations I've had over the course of the last year, literally it was funny that it happened this week from a coincidence standpoint, not funny that it happened to this person. She's been in a house renting for about $2,400 a month when I started talking to her about a year and a half ago. They increased the rent last year to $2,700. And I was like, well, you should buy. Like, rates were at 5 3/4 or 6%. You should get out and buy. She's like, well, I'm waiting for prices to come down. Now rates are up. Well, now rates are 8, right? 7 3/4, whatever. And I was talking to her this week. They've raised the rent to $3,400. So she's going to have a $1,000 increase. She has to commit to it in the next between now and the end of the month. So they dropped it on her late, or I didn't get a hold of her till late, or whatever the case, and she didn't think to call me. And I said, why are we not buying? Why, you will not see another rent increase. She's like, these rents are through the roof, $1,000 a month in 2 years.
Yeah, that's insane. And let me ask you this. What was the factor that caused that landlord to raise the rent $1,000 in 2 years?
Well, the answer is because he can. It's the market, the market conditions. So this gal has experienced another $1,000 a month in expense. She's not in control of her real estate situation. And her first thing she said to me is, these rents are ridiculous. I got to find a cheaper place to rent. I'm like, do you realize you could buy for this payment and never have your payment go up again?
Yeah, guys, if you're paying $2,500 and up for rent, you have got to look into buying, because like Dylan just mentioned, you are not in control of your real estate life when you're renting, and prices are not coming down. I still, depending on what happens geopolitically, I still think rates are going to come down going into the spring. I could be wrong, but I'm going out on a limb here.
You go out on that limb by yourself. I disagree. I think we have higher rates going forward.
I'm going to go out on that limb. Historically, that's what's happened, but there's a lot going on right now. We don't know. Nobody really knows. We're all sitting here throwing darts at a board.
You're correct. My general opinion differs from yours for the following reason, and I may be right and I may be wrong, but I feel like, as a guy who's kind of watched the market from a very close seat on the sideline over the course of the last 25 years, we've exited a situation where over the course of literally the last 25 years, every time something happened economically, the market kind of took it as a cue to drop rates. Right? Whether you go back all the way to September 11th, whether you go back to Mr. Greenspan and irrational exuberance, there's always been a reason for rates to continue to improve based on the current economic conditions. And in the last, really only in 2023 has this turned. So not really during the first stages of the rate increases last year. We've now entered a point, Larry, where we get unemployment figures. They're a little askew. They're like, oh, that means rates are going higher. Or we get, numbers on CPI or inflation, and, they're like, oh, well, we've got, our employment, and those numbers shift, and it's like, well, but what about this? And it's inflationary, and the tone of the market seems to be interested in taking rates higher, even in the face of news that in the previous 2 decades would have taken them lower. So I don't mean this to be scare tactic-y. I think that it's a great thing that rates are up for investors, right? You can go get 5.5 on a money market account, like for every part of the real estate business that is experiencing a negative.
I was just talking to a friend of mine about that.
Yeah.
He's planning on being in 6 to 8% territory.
And so I think that there are places in the economy, not where we are in our living day to day, where higher rates have a dramatically positive effect. Today, higher rates are, in the short run, negatively affecting the real estate market, given the volume we saw previously. But I think these rates on some levels, are healthy, right? Because the overall economy is more in balance. Additionally, the real estate market's more in balance, right? We don't have 20 buyers for every house like we did. That's good for our business, but it's not really good for the people who want to buy houses.
Yeah, I will.
And so now we're in more balance.
Yeah, and we are in more balance now, but I will say again that if you have a sought-after house in Lakeview, in a sought-after unit in Lakeview, a sought-after house in Bucktown, a sought-after house in Naperville, like in any other real estate market, and you handle it right as far as the marketing and everything else goes, you're going to get a flood of interest and a flood of offers.
Isn't that a more normal real estate market?
It kind of is.
Than the kind of
where
skewed one we had.
Is getting 25 offers.
So exactly. So I just think that although from our seats we feel very economically uncertain relative to 2-3 years ago. I think in the grand scheme of things, this current market situation's not entirely unhealthy.
Well, listen, if you guys want to avoid all of the nonsense of the speculation and all the pundits, including us, making our predictions, because we're all flying blind here, honestly. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody does.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. If I knew what was coming next, I'd be a retired bond trader instead of doing this crazy job for a living.
Well, if you'd like some really good information, whether you're selling, buying, or investing, I wrote a book called The Top 10s of Real Estate that is going to really open up your eyes to a lot of things, like how to negotiate home inspection issues, or why pre-approval is so important, why it's so important to be represented by an attorney.
Larry, one of the things I love about the book, and I know we talked a little bit about it last week, but the thing is that it does two great things. The first one is, look, every situation you can encounter as a potential home buyer or seller in this market, you've covered, right? Yeah, because you've seen it all over the years. But the other thing is, it's so critically important to not make a $10,000 mistake, a $5,000 mistake, or multiple mistakes. So you can just open this book to what you're facing today, right?
Absolutely.
Whether you're a buyer or a seller. And jump in and spend a few minutes reading on your specific problem. And it's almost it's less a novel and more a guide.
That's
right?
exactly why I wrote the book the way I did. I wanted to compile 23 years of experience, $400 million in sales, and I wanted to give people a chance. It's one of those books you can pick up and put down based on your need and what you're looking for, what questions you're looking to answer. And here's the great news. Instead of making a $10,000 mistake, just simply text book to 630-921-0611. Text book to 630-921-0611, and I'm going to send you the ebook for free.
Nice.
What's better than free?
Hey, you know what? You stole my thunder on that, Larry. Do me a favor. Hand me the book. I'm going to show it up on the TikTok if you're watching us on social media, and go from there.
Yeah, sorry about the picture on the book, but
you cut a handsome figure, my friend. That's definitely a PR photo if I ever saw one.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but look, the bottom line is this. You're here to help, and at the end of the day, everybody's situation is unique. And I think that in this current market, with a more balanced, higher level of interest rates and a still kind of critical mass, if you will, inventory situation, you gotta do everything you can to make sure that you don't stub your toe to the tune of $2, $3, $5, $10,000, which can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And make sure, especially in a market like this, you're working with a mortgage pro like Dylan that gets you pre-approved, and a solid pre-approval where you're moving forward and we're getting you over the finish line. And I know from working with Dylan over the years that they get you over the finish line. It's super important, as it is to work with a real estate agent, like and trust, but is a pricing expert, is a marketing expert, works with stagers, works with, home inspectors like Charlie Belafontaine, and it's important to do that and surround yourself with professionals that do this for a living every day and have for years, because this market is it's pretty crazy to get through.
Yeah, there's no question about it. The funny thing, Larry, is in every piece of what somebody does as your circle of trust of real estate advisors, right?
Yeah.
Whether they're working with you specifically or they start working with me. The reality is there's 1,000 loose ends that you have to cover literally in buying or selling a home, from the first conversation to the tick box of bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. But home inspectors too. There's 1,000 things on a home inspection.
My God.
And when we take a loan application for a borrower, you have no way to see this, but there's 1,000 things that they're looking for too, from line items on your tax returns to how your income is structured, whether you get a W-2 or a bonus or those sort of things. Information in your credit report, every one of those line items is reviewed. Like, it's a massive, massive undertaking because unless you have the capacity to pay cash, which, don't get me wrong, lots of people do, the reality of this situation is if you're going to, in the example we used earlier, put up $70,000-ish of a $1.4 million purchase, the guys with the $1.3 million that you're going to use, they want to make sure it's a good bet.
Yeah, they're safe, and they're in a good space. So we talked about rents going up. Let's talk about the current average sold price, because that's important as well, obviously, because like we said, how many times do we get asked the question, hey, do you think prices are going to go down?
No.
That would be a no, and for a lot of reasons.
Just no.
Yeah, just no. Let's just leave it at that. But so 353,470 was the current average sold price this year. This year, the current average sold price is $353,470, as compared to last year at the same time when the current average sold price was $333,527, so $20,000. That's a 6% increase. And
it's another 6%.
Yeah, I mean, guys,
we sat here a year ago and we said there was going to be about a 5 to 8% increase, and we're seeing 6%. And you know what we're going to see next year? 5 to 8%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not stopping, folks. Is there a year, in theory, that we see some pullback? Maybe. But look, at the end of the day, if the Fed raises rates and mortgage rates go to double digits, could we see a 6-month slowdown where we had a flat year? Yes. Do I think prices are falling? No. And certainly I've had discussions with people over time, over the last few months, where they're arguing for the idea that there's going to be some 20 or 30% pullback in prices, and it's not happening.
Yeah, I don't know who's arguing that, but I'm not getting on the side of that argument because that's just not happening.
Right. We could disagree about the future of rates a little bit. We're not disagreeing about the future of prices.
Yeah.
Look, the interesting thing, Larry, is that, prices were down in the last month 0.1%, right? Yeah. So that's virtually flat. And some people, again, mainstream media type people, CNBC reporter who I won't name her, will tell you, hey, but she's been singing about the next crash coming in the real estate market for 8 years, and it's not happening. So we're down 0.1%.
Maria Bartiromo.
Again, I'm not naming names, and we're going to turn around and look at the big picture, which is over the last year, we've had a 6% increase. And the 1 month at 0.1% down just as a rounding situation. And I'd be interested to see when we're back up next month what that's going to look like from a media standpoint. But the bottom line is, and we've spent a lot of time kind of talking about the data here this morning, we really continue to see data that tells us rates aren't falling dramatically anytime soon. Prices aren't falling dramatically anytime soon. So now it's more important than ever, if you're going to enter the real estate market, to make sure you do it, and you do it when you're in a well-educated fashion with professional assistance. And you can start that journey, again, by getting a copy of Larry's Top 10s of Real Estate.
And how do you do that?
What do we do to do that, Larry?
Just text me book at 630-921-0611. Get the ebook for free. I mean, you can go to Amazon, you can go to Barnes & Noble, you can go to these other places and pay for it. I'm good with that. However, if you text me book for free at 630-921-0611, I'm going to send you a copy of that book for free. And I'm telling you now, it will save you money unless you're a pro in this business and have been doing it for years. Now, our last stat I want to talk about real quickly because it really kind of ties everything together. This year, currently, and remember, these stats are based on the Chicago metro market from MRED. So the thing is that although these are stats that are specific to the Chicago metro market, I would not be surprised if they are mirrored in typical numbers in other markets across the country. Now, the coasts are a little bit different. Some other areas like Colorado might be a little bit different because they're very international markets. But so far, closed listings current year to date is 1,926. That's year to date. 1,926 as compared to the same time last year where we had 2,363 closings.
Larry, it's a reduction in closings by 18%.
Yeah.
And the negative Nellies out there will say, well, that just means that the market is slowing down and prices are going to fall soon after. But what it really means is, as we've talked about, as the numbers we discussed earlier today support, we are not seeing dropping prices. We are not seeing dropping interest rates. And so lots of people with their existing homes are staying put and not coming to market. And that's why the numbers are down.
Absolutely.
Period. End of story.
Yeah. No question about it. All right, guys, we are going to take a quick break. We will be back in less than half a minute.
Tune in to Real Estate Radio Saturdays at 9 a.m. hosted by the real estate therapist Larry Shakman, a top-producing real estate broker, author, CEO, and founder of TrustedAgentUSA.com. Top-performing agents for 2% commission, saving you thousands when you sell, buy, or invest. Real Estate Radio, the ultimate real estate radio experience. Get insider tips from experts throughout the real estate industry. Streaming live on Facebook at WCPT 820. Trusted Agent USA Illinois, license number 475-145795. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio, sponsored in part by TrustedAgentUSA.com, the ultimate real estate matchmaker, saving you thousands. Now back to Larry, the real estate therapist.
All right.
I'm going to jump you here.
Yeah.
All right. So we're back on the show, and we were having a laugh during the break. And the thing I want to make sure that everybody understands very clearly, because apparently it was misunderstood here in the studio, is that if you are a potential consumer, your top 10s of real estate book is for you. If you're a potential home buyer, renter, seller, it's for you, not just people like us, whatever that means.
What does people like us mean? Okay.
I don't know. I just overheard a conversation, and I want a lot of clarity around that.
We'll ask our wives about that when we get home. What does people like us mean? So, hey, last thing I want to talk about here, and it's just a little advice I want to pass on to everybody because this is something I do myself, and that is this. 53% of current inflation is based on corporate profits. So when we had all these supply side issues, right, we saw all these prices explode, right? Now, since the supply side issues, and who knows if they're going to kick in again with everything going on, but supply side issues have really been tamped down, but you haven't seen prices come down. And specifically in food products, we've seen lumber come down.
Right.
We've seen builders start building more as a result of that. But, guys, here's the thing. If you keep buying overpriced products, once a company knows that you're going to buy that product at that price, they're not lowering that price until you stop buying that product at that inflated price. Stop buying products at inflated prices and you will see prices come down, and potentially you'll see our inflation rate come down to where we want it, around 2%. But 53% right now of our inflation is directly contributed to corporate profits, period. So stop buying expensive crap and until they lower their prices, then start buying their crap again.
So are you telling me I overpaid for the Bronco?
That is a beautiful car.
Thank you very much.
I love that car.
Thank you. Not as much as I do, my friend. So,
no.
But that's a whole nother story.
No, you know what? Here's what I would say. Pick a couple of products that you normally buy that you haven't seen the price come down on since they raised it when supply side and everything else was going crazy, and stop buying it. And I guarantee you, if people do that, you're going to see prices come down. Once a company figures out you'll pay this much for this product, they're not lowering it until you stop buying that product at that price. It's as simple as that.
I have a story for you there, but I want to talk real estate instead of hamburgers, so let's just move on.
I love hamburgers.
You know what? I used to love hamburgers too. I went into, so now we've waded into it, so I'll give you the short version. During the pandemic, as you may know, but for the listeners, I started riding my bicycle quite a bit more. As a matter of fact, during the 2020 and 2021 years, I probably rode 1,000 miles on my road bike. And not as much anymore, but I took the bike in to get a tune-up.
It's electric.
The bike shop.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, there you go. The bike shop is near a higher-end hamburger chain. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to name them here because it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
But it's not McDonald's. It's not Burger King, right? So it's quote unquote upper level.
Starts with a 5. No, I don't know. I have no idea.
So the thing is, so I go into this chain, and look, that's an expensive hamburger, right? So normally during the pandemic or prior to the pandemic,
a lot of fries, though.
I'd turn around and settle in, order a cheeseburger, fries, Coke, and it was like $13 or $14. I'm like, well, that's a lot, but it's a special treat. We'll do that, and I'm riding my bike enough, and we could do that. I go in and I'm standing there minding my own business at the beginning of this inflation, right? We're hearing about it. So I'm working and I'm on my phone and I'm doing my thing. And I hand the guy $20 for my order and I keep going. And all of a sudden, about 30 seconds later, I hear, and it's the cashier. And I look up and he's like, it's not enough. And now a burger, fries, and a Coke at this place is north of $20.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I ate it as slow as I could because I knew it was the last time I was having it, and I've never been back since.
Well, I had an experience that.
So I'm on your program.
Yeah, I had an experience like that at a fast food place as well, where I took 2 kids there and myself. We got what we would normally get, and I got the $35 bill, and I'm like, wait a second, is there something wrong here? And I looked closely at it, and no, there was nothing wrong there, except I was overpaying for, I'm not even going to go into where it was.
My poor aunt takes her 3 grandchildren to McDonald's, and it is like almost out $50 between the 4 of them. I mean, it's just, you're not wrong to say inflation is real and out there, and you have to make good, conscious decisions instead of just continuing to go along like you always have and assuming things are more just are going to be more expensive.
And specifically right now, inflation is kind of staying where it's at. Right.
Although, Larry, I hear us talking about fighting inflation by not buying, and then we're trying to tell people it's a great time to buy real estate. So maybe we should start talking about something else.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because the other thing that is driving inflation, I hate to say this, is real estate.
Well, for sure.
Real estate, food prices, and staples are driving real estate because certain companies figured out you'll buy half a box of cereal for twice as much as it cost 2 years ago. And but real estate is part of that. There's no question about it.
Real estate's definitely part of the equation. But the good thing about your real estate situation, as we visited here before, is look, if you're a buyer in today's market because it makes sense for you, and look, it may not make sense for everybody, right? I get that. But the analysis is really important, because if you can swing a payment today and get control of your real estate situation, as we talked, fix your payment, one of 3 things is going to happen. going to move on down the road and nothing's going to happen. Rates are going to kind of top out here, and we're going to hang out, and you'll make your payment, and you'll be in control of your real estate situation. No landlord. Get a dog if you want. Paint the hall bath red for all I care, and you go from there, which you're not doing in a rental. The other thing is rates go up from here. I'm more right than you are, and we see rates in the 9s, and you'll thank your lucky stars you bought in the 7s.
That's right.
Or door number 3, you're right. Rates drop, your property value goes up, and you refinance later and then turn around and capture that additional monthly savings. And in spite of the real estate inflation now, you can grab a lower payment later if Larry's right about rates.
Yeah.
So the question is buying real estate now right for you? Because the outcomes later all work for you.
Yeah.
No matter what your situation is.
Yeah.
It's only a question of, does it make sense now? And to help it make sense now, you could probably review your ebook, The Top 10s of Real Estate.
Yeah, I mean, guys, here's the other thing. There's one place you can save money. If you go to TrustedAgentUSA.com, and it's a shameless promotion, bottom line is when you're buying a house, you're going to get 0.5% back on that purchase price to put towards your closing costs. And when you're selling a house, you're going to be able to sell it for as little as 2% commission, full stop. So, and there's a lot of things changing in real estate right now. As a matter of fact, Monday is the day the antitrust suit starts. The litigation starts on that antitrust suit with NAR and several other large brokerages, a couple of which have already settled. So we'll see how that all rolls out. But, if you want the book, 630-921-0611, just say free book. Free book, give me my book, whatever you want. Just text me at 630-921-0611. And
dude, you are on fire today. Yeah, that's all I can tell you.
We will get.
All right, are we going to talk about some real estate horror stories today?
We are. Right after this break. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Saturdays at 9 a.m., hosted by the real estate therapist Larry Shakman, a top-producing real estate broker, author, CEO, and founder of TrustedAgentUSA.com. Top-performing agents for 2% commission, saving you thousands when you sell, buy, or invest. Real Estate Radio, the ultimate real estate radio experience. Get insider tips from experts throughout the real estate industry. Streaming live on Facebook at WCPT 820. Trusted Agent USA, Illinois, license number 475-145-795. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio, sponsored in part by TrustedAgentUSA.com, the ultimate real estate matchmaker, saving you thousands. Now back to Larry, the real estate therapist.
All right, we are back, and in deference to Halloween coming up, first of all, I want to thank Devin and Stephanie for running the board today. Devin's in his Halloween costume. I believe, is that a never mind. In deference to...
Have I mentioned that you are on fire today?
Yeah, in deference to Halloween, we are going to discuss a couple of, I don't know if I want to call them horror stories, but it's things that could be avoided.
It's good for the bit, the real estate horror stories.
Yeah, it's exactly. But they are things that can be avoided if you just are completely transparent in your financial situation with the professionals you're working with, just like you need to be with your doctor when it comes to your health.
You say that, Larry. The analogy I like to use when I talk to people for the first or second time, but when we're starting to get serious about their pre-approval for their next mortgage is, I heard this analogy years ago and I shamelessly stole it because there are no fresh ideas in real estate, right? We're always just repurposing stuff we've heard before. So I heard a lawyer say once, he's like, look, I represent people who are accused of crimes. And he's like, we go into my office and we close the door, and this is why we have attorney-client privilege. Mm-hmm. Did you do it? He's like, and sometimes I can tell by their body language they lie to me and say they didn't, but they did. But now I have my answer. He's like, I'd rather have them tell me the truth. And he says, tell me the truth so I know how to represent you. We may still plead not guilty in court, but I need to know whether you did it or not so I know what I'm walking into, so that the other side doesn't surprise me with information where you're like, oh no, I didn't do that, and they're like, oh well, here's the video. Like if you're on video, we're going to have to, I should know that right away. So I tell people a version of the same thing, right? I need to know, is there anything in your credit history? Is there anything in your job history? Is there anything that
Are there any judgments outstanding?
Funny that you mentioned that.
I'm going to let you pick up on that.
So the thing is that Larry and I had an experience last month where we had been working with a borrower for a period of months.
And an awesome guy, I might say.
Fantastic gentleman, fantastic family who we got a chance to get involved with, and was looking to turn around and make an important move in selling the current home and buying another home for what was next for their family at their stage of life. And so we had run through the entire pre-approval in June and had enough information to kind of issue the pre-approval letter based on the current data, and that included everything in the credit report and the information about the income and all that. So we set a target price range. We had to do some real massaging of the numbers to help find an appropriate property that fit the payments. And had then...
Which we did.
Right. Yeah, no, and it wasn't easy, right? Because between the purchase price and because we were looking at a condo, or a property with an HOA, we were in a situation where the HOA and the property tax variables were very, very tight. We had a very limited margin for error.
Not to mention inventory is...
Whoa, yes. I mean, we had we had a big... we had to fight other people for the right to get that house under contract.
Yes.
And we put it under contract, and they sold their other house, or they put that house under contract. And then, lo and behold, in very short order, we found out, as part of the actual loan approval process, that there were some old judgments from some old debts. And what happens is they were so old that they were not on the current credit report. They had aged out. However, they were in a service called Fraud Guard, which basically does a public record search of all the information. And sure enough, immediately after getting under contract, we found out there was a potential problem. Well, when confronted with this information about the judgments, the borrower's first response was...
It's been taken care of.
It's been taken care of. And then it was, it's not me. I don't know what you're talking about. And then it was, no, these issues have been handled. And it turns out, if you define handled as, I've been ignoring all the calls and letters and emails and judgment notifications because they literally, the creditor had gone to court and gotten a default judgment. Like, you owe us this money, you're going to pay it. The court says so. Now, can they get the money from the guy? I don't know that he has the cash, but he never engaged in that process. So there it is in black and white. So now we're in a situation where we're a couple of weeks before closing, and without this information, we're like, well, we need to get to the bottom of it. So the more questions we ask, look, the bottom line is he owed the money. And the lender was like, you know, we're not going to let this go, because the whole reason they go get a judgment, and they look, lenders know this, right? And other people you're in money disputes with, they go to court, they hire lawyers so that they can get a judgment, so to either force you to pay cash, or so they can hold up something else in your life so that you will come to the table and pay them. So they had zero interest in negotiating just because it was urgent for our client. And so, unfortunately, the whole thing fell apart. Can't sell his house, can't move his family to the next house.
Fell apart.
Right, the sale and the buy fell apart. Can't get into a more appropriate housing situation and budget for their current situation. Can't get out of the living situation.
And you know what? More importantly, it was a lot of time wasted on everybody's part, including the sellers.
Yes,
including the sellers of the condo, including our sellers. And that's why it's so important to be just completely transparent when you're working with professionals, mortgage professionals, real estate professionals, your attorney, home inspector. Super important to do that.
Absolutely. So that's an unfortunate situation. So the reality here is, you know, again, don't lie to your lender, don't lie to your realtor, put it all out there.
And don't hedge. Just come out with it.
Right.
Put
it. Just what? There's a playbook for everything. Right.
Absolutely.
When we weren't under the deadline in this situation, and when we weren't under the deadline of the contract to get the existing lender to negotiate back in June, 3.5 months ago, we could have entered negotiations to try to make something happen. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But we couldn't anymore. So that's that horror story.
Yeah, so I have a horror story, not so much a horror story because it ended phenomenally. So I had a property in Lamont that I listed for $369,900. We sold for $395,000 before it ever hit the market. We pre-market all of our homes before they hit the market. And the reason for that is to build anticipation of that property coming on the market. And then we give everybody an equal amount of time to see it on the same day. So they not only see the property, they see each other and how sought after that property is. It builds competition. I'm giving you the thumbnail of all this. By the way, that same number where you are texting for the book, and I think we've gotten 7 or 8 texts already for the book. If you want to find out how to save when you sell, buy, or invest, just simply text 630-921-0611, 0611, excuse me, 630-921-0611 with sell, buy, or invest, and I'm going to show you exactly how to save thousands in any one of those scenarios. If you just want the book and want to try it on your own, 630-921-0611, book.
Nice. All right, Larry, I got one more quick one for you.
Yeah.
So I have a client who recently won a bidding war.
Wait. Let me interrupt you real quickly. So I want to just finish that story about that Lamont home. So $369,900 we had it on the market for. We sold it for $395,000 in our pre-marketing period. The whole deal was almost blown because the seller decided they didn't want to leave, even though they said they would. They didn't want to leave their 8-year-old washer and dryer, which they couldn't get $500 for on the secondary market. So, folks, my point is pick your battles. They believe me, a new washer and dryer was not going to cost anybody $35,000.
It's funny that you mentioned a washer and dryer, which leads me to my story. So one of the things that's happened less lately, but was happening, is we were really experiencing people waiving, right? Waiving. I'm going to not worry about an appraisal. I'm going to not worry about a home inspection. I'm going to not worry about having to get approved for my mortgage and hope that it's all going to work out. We had a client waive home inspection, and they had a washer dryer in the upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have your washer and dryer in the basement, what you'll have is you'll see all the hoses and tubes and stuff in the back, right? Whether it's the water line or the dryer vent. And that's where I'm going with this. These folks bought the place because it was effectively an upstairs hall closet that the washer dryer were in, and they built kind of a surround for it and tried to minimize the space and the footprint of the washer dryer. It vented like 15 feet in the air straight out, but the back vent came loose. And so for years...
It wasn't venting.
It was venting, but it was venting all the lint into the wall with the sheetrock.
Oh, nice.
Which led to moisture and mold.
Yep.
And it was devastating. And the thing is, the house passed home inspection. The seller didn't know about it. And we ended up in a situation, fire risk, mold, remediation, the whole thing. So again, buying a house without a home inspection is a top 10 of real estate no-no, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And if I was making problems, Larry, with the top 10s of real estate and I was looking to solve them, what would I do?
Just text 630-921-0611, book to 630-921-0611. Also, if you're looking to save, whether you're buying, selling, or investing, just text one of those numbers. We are out of here, folks. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Saturday on Real Estate Radio.
Real Estate Radio with your host, Larry Shakman, the real estate therapist and top producing broker. Now, go to TrustedAgentUSA.com and save thousands when you sell, buy, or invest. Illinois license number 475145795. Tune in next week for the ultimate real estate radio experience.